Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller and today I want to talk about the use an object action. You can find details for use an object on page 193 of the player's handbook. When an object requires your action for its use, you take the use an object action. This action is also useful when you want to interact with more than one object on your turn, and this is only really related to combat. I've already done a video on interacting, and you can see that in my playlist under How to Play D&D 5e. Outside of combat, using an object really isn't a big deal because we don't have to really measure or determine whether that's actually going to spend an action or an interaction. Outside of combat, it's unimportant. The Dungeon Master just says whether you can do it and what you have to do to actually achieve it. But inside of combat, that's when things get a little bit more complicated, and we have to start counting the sorts of things that you're going to do so that people don't try to do too much in their turn. So if we have a quick look at our situation, we're in a tavern and there are a number of things that people can do. The man here with the little lamp, the guardman, comes up to the door and opens the door, and we are in the middle of a combat, so there's a bar fight or a tavern fight. Opening the door, okay, that's just an interaction. It's a very simple task. It doesn't take very long to do, and that's perfectly fine. If the guard moves through the door after opening the door and then closes the door on the same turn, that's a second interaction, which means he has to use the action, his main action, to close the door, because he's doing two interactions in the same turn. And this is when you would use the use an object action. Another example of using an object might be that the paladin here decides they are going to grab the table and lift it up and throw it over. Now they can do that, that's fine, but it might be considered too much as an interaction by the Dungeon Master, and this is when the paladin right here would have to use their action, their main action, to actually grab the table, lift it up and hurl it across the tavern. And that's when you use the use an object action. Yet another example, say the ranger over here decides to go over to the keg and push the keg off the stand. Now pushing the keg off the stand might be considered a bit more difficult than just having an interaction with an object. It might require a bit of force and muscle, or getting the shoulder in there and pushing it off. And so if your Dungeon Master says, look, that's going to have to be use an object, you're going to have to use your action in combat to actually push the barrel off. The thing to remember about use an object is you have to use that as your action when you try to do two interactions in the same turn in the middle of combat, or the Dungeon Master thinks that what you're trying to do is really going to expend more than just an interaction, that it's more of your turn than just the interaction, and you have to expend your main action to actually do it. If you do that and you use your action, then you won't be able to cast a spell. That is an action spell. Bonus action spells are very different, and you won't be able to make an attack in that turn as well unless you have some sort of special ability. If you found this video helpful or informative, please share, like and subscribe. Make a comment below if you have any questions regarding the use an object action, and I will explain those as best I can. Until next time, keep rolling those 20s.